Hi everyone! Today I'm going to talk about how to set up a webhook in make.com to take data from one integration and push it into a Neo4j database instance. Alright, so before you get started, the first thing you're going to need to do is set up a Google Cloud function or some endpoint to send the data to that will then route it to Neo4j database. So what I have here is a project that is a Google Cloud Function wrapper around an uploader package that I've created. And I'll put links below for showing you how to create your own versions of these. So there'll be a link to this repo here. Now you're going to want to do is create a new scenario here. Okay. And what we're going to do, since we're going to demonstrate with Asana today, I'm just going to start with that. So you can click the plus button and then just type in Asana. Click here. And here we're just going to watch for whenever a task has been updated. So here we're going to watch task or subtask. Okay. And then here we're going to connect to your Asana instance. Here I've done this already, but if you want to, when you first do this, you'll click the add button and you'll click save and it will walk you through so that goes to an SSO for authenticating with Asana. So here I just set it up to look at one particular project. So whenever tasks are updated in this project, it will fire off this webhook. Okay. So here I'll just do modified because I think that'll catch most. Okay, so the workspace I want to put this into is, again, the companies and specifically one particular project. That is our DevRel events for 2024. Okay, so any events that are modified in here will kick off this webhook. And here I'm just going to limit to one for now so that we can see, so more clearly see the data that's returning. So click OK. And we'll do it from now on rather than the past. And here I can right click on the module and just run this module only. This is generally a good idea to do the first time you're setting up so you have some test data to reference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to Asana and just create a task real quick. So let's create a test task and I'll assign that to myself. Okay. So now, if I fire this, I've got that data, right? So that task and me as an assignee should show up. So I'm going to do is close this out. And ultimately, what I want to get to is an HTTP call, right? So I'll add that here at the bottom. And I want to make I'm going to make a basic auth request. Sorry, that was a little fast. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is add credentials, right, for the basic auth. And here I've already created one with my username and password for this particular endpoint. But here you can put here, right? So this will be the username and your password here, right? And then you just click create and it will become a drop-down option. Okay, so I'm going to choose this one I had created earlier. And now the endpoint. So I deployed this project onto Google Cloud. And when you do that, you'll get a list of the functions that you have created. So here in the tabs, kind of the third tab row down in Google Clouds, there is a tab for trigger. Just click on that and then click on the copied clipboard. Go back to Asana, paste here. And this is going to be a post call. And you can leave the headers and query strings empty. The body type is going to be raw and content type JSON. And then the request content. Now here the schema for the dictionary is not super complex, but it's long enough to kind of not want to do manually. So what I would recommend is you go to the project that I have here. Just click on the sample.json. And what I would do is just kind of copy all this and then paste it here. What we're going to do is we're going to modify what goes into this data, right? So what we're going to show off here is just an assignee and then the task, right? So let's go back to the data here, right? So we can see that in Asana, we've got task ID, which is the key is actually GID, if you were to look at the bundle data here. So you can do that by clicking on this download button, download output bundles, and it will reveal the actual JSON payload that came from Asana. So this GID represents the task specific to it, and then each person in Asana also has a GID. So we'll just make use of that to uniquely identify different nodes. So what this will become is this will be GID, and we're going to replace this with a task and also use GID. And relationships, we're just going to have someone is assigned to a task. So we're just doing one task node, one person node, and then assigning them. And of course, you can extrapolate on this and do like followers or people who are attached to a project. But I just want to show kind of the most basic setup for this webhook. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to replace all these record datas with data from Asana. All right, so this will be easier if we close this out. So this call is not yet ready. It's prepared to be ready. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some light ETL work in the middle here to just kind of format this data. And the reason to do this is one, to fit our payload call, but really because the way make works, when it connects to this integration, this JSON data here is not, you can't pass it directly to an HTTP call, right? This data has been turned into something known as a bundle in make.com. What we're going to do is we're going to extract this data from the bundle. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a router here. Now, what this router will allow me to do is take that one information call and send it through different sort of tiny workflows. So what I want to do is extract the task data, extract the assignee data, and then create a assignee to task relationship, right? So I'm doing basically three mini workflows here. So the router is going to let me kind of run all three simultaneously and not do repeated integration calls. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to aggregate this JSON data, or I'm going to aggregate the bundle data into a new JSON stringified object. All right, so here, just click on the plus button, and then I put in JSON here at the bottom, and then just clicking on here. So I want the aggregate to JSON option. And what this is going to do is I'm going to take the data from this Asana module, and I'm going to convert it to a Asana task object. Now I've done this already, but when you first do it, you're going to click on this add button. And here you're basically creating a data structure that you can reuse throughout Make. And here you can just add in like, what is the key property here, and you can define whether it's a text, number, etc. and kind of just go down through here. One option you could do is to just generate, in which case you could take the whole JSON payload that you got from Asana here, right? You could take all this from one record and put it in here, and what Make will do is create this make.com data structure to match that JSON. This works pretty good if the payload's small. In our case with Asana, it's quite large, so this would take a while. And I don't need all that data just to show what we're doing here. But that is an option to quickly generate these data structures. Okay, so I'm going to close this out because I've already done this, and I'm going to click on the Asana task that I created. And in the Asana task data structure that I've created, I've only got like 5-6 properties here. The GID, and I'll do that in a second. The name, the description of the task, when it was created, when it was updated, and then the link to that task, right? So it's kind of bare minimum task data. So here for the GID, I'm just going to make this equal to the task ID that came from Asana. All right, the name, I'll just make it the task name. Here we are. Description is actually HTML notes, I believe. No, notes. Created at is the same, and updated is actually modified at from Asana, and then URL link is the permalink. And of course, you could choose names that match the integration source. Here, I wanted to do something a little more generalized because I plan on taking integrations from other sources and kind of putting it all into kind of the same data model. Okay, once done, just click OK. So now we've got this JSON module, which will take that bundle data and turn it into a list of dictionary data that matches what we had just selected. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to save this data to a variable. So I'm going to click this variable, this tools icon on the bottom, and then click set variable. Oop. I'm going to put this over here, and I'm just going to name this task. And I'm going to set this to the JSON string that was created here. Okay. Now I'm going to want to do this for the assignee and then the relationship between the assignee and the task. So here, I'm just going to create another aggregate JSON, connect it here, and I'm going to again point it to the Asana task that it's coming from. And then here I've got a employee. Should have called this Asana employee, but anyways, GID, this is going to match the assignee GID and the name here. Now, when task data is brought over through Asana, or when the webhook fires, it doesn't provide the assignee email, but there is another webhook that does, or another call that will. So I just left this here for being updated in the future. But from task, realize that you don't get emails from users. Okay, and then here, I'm gonna put another set variable. And this one's going to be for employees or assignees. And I'll put this to JSON. Let's do this one more time for the relationship now. Aggregate JSON again, and this is going to connect to the router. And then here, again, the Asana is going to be the source. And here I got a Asana assignee relationship. And this is just going from task GID to employee GID. I should really just make it simpler and just actually just go from GID to GID. Since everything in Asana has a GID, every like major component, then I can reuse this relationship instead of creating a new relationship for every sort of combo. All right, so here, just going from the task ID to the assignee ID. So this will create a relationship where the task has been assigned to a particular individual. All right, so click OK. And then I'm going to assign this to a variable as well, though I don't technically need to in this case, which you'll see in a second. So here, I'm just going to do the task assigned to employee. So I'm just writing this out in sort of pseudo cipher so that I can more easily locate and remember how I name these variables. But you can name them however you like to best remember. And this, again, is going to equal the JSON string. The last thing I really need to do is to retrieve all those variables. So get multiple variables, tool option. Oop. Okay, so that's something that happens often in Make, is if you create a new module, it always kind of does it in the center. And if you're near other modules, it will auto stick to it, which is both good and bad. It's good when you know what's coming, and it's bad when it connects to things like that and you've got to unhook up things. Okay, so this this final part of the process is we're taking all those JSON strings that we stored and we're going to pass it to the HTTP call that we have here. Now this has to be done last, and if you were to put this here, it would actually fire multiple times because, well, I'm not entirely sure why it fires multiple times, but to keep it from doing that, what I often do is I'll put a router here and I'll connect this final path to it, and then connect the final flow here to it. And I want to get the task, click on a single assignee, and then the task to assigned to employee. Okay, so you saw that last one is a little duplicitous because I had already assigned it here. If I'm just chaining these, I can actually just reference this directly. The reason I put it in this router is in case I decide to add additional workflows, I can just disconnect from the router and move the whole chunk. Now the HTTP call is now ready for final hookup. So here we're going to go and replace person here with the assignee JSON. The task will be replaced. So the entire list is going to be replaced by this JSON string, right? Because this JSON string is boxed in a list already. And then relationship assigned to, we'll do it from GID, node key. All right, so the way this schema works is here I'm specifying the from node, right? So this is the task. So in the relationship, it was the key for it was just from _ GID. And then the node key that's in the database record is going to be GID for the task, and then we're going to connect it to the GID of the person record inside. So this is all set up here, right? So we're creating a new person with a GID, new task with a GID, and here we're just specifying when we are pulling the records, which is including a list of dictionaries that just has from GID to GID here. And here, this is just an extra ability to filter these out. So anything within the dictionary would become part of the relationship or nodes property record using the package I've got. So here I'm just specifying to exclude these after or before it creates these relationships so that it's not included in its properties. Okay, so that should be it. So I click OK. So I'm going to jump over to Asana here. And just going to modify this task, put in some notes, blah, blah, blah. What could happen, right, is there is no assignee to a given task, in which case I should probably put a filter in here anyways. So let me put that in real quick. So if the assignee exists here, and then if assignee exists, we'll complete that. Okay, so now then the problem becomes this final workflow is attached at the bottom. So I really need to flip this, right click into the router, order the routes, and we'll put this first aggregate to JSON last, and then auto align. And then what I want to do is unlike this and attach to this final one. What this will do instead is it will create the assignees first optionally, and I always want to run this when the task is created. Now here, I'm still not sure why. So here from task GID to employee GID, here it's almost looking like it's looking at the wrong relationship ID, right? This is this earlier relationship ID I have. One thing to note in make.com, I have not been able to figure out is how to delete data structures that you create. You can clone, you can edit them, but as far as I know, you can't actually delete one. Deleting this module on the off chance that it was a, I don't know, maybe some weird caching thing. So aggregate JSON, put this over here. Pull it from the Asana task. Choose the Asana relationship structure from GID to other GID. Click OK. All right, fix this. So whenever you delete a module, you're going to have to go in and fix any prior links, even if you named it the same. So I had previously assigned a filter here, and what it did was when I got rid of that module, it linked it to this one. So and re-add it here. Assignee exist. Okay, by the task again. This time I will just change this content, and let's see. Let me change the task. Test. See if I can trigger this webhook. Boop. Okay. But it did work. Okay, so we can see here, it looks like it stored data everywhere. I'm just gonna check the end here. So it grabbed. Again, you can see the JSON strings that are created, right? Task, assignee, and then the relationships is a list of dictionaries, right? And then I can check to see if it fired correctly. And no, I got it 500. Great. let's see, the problem uploading GID. So what we want to see here is the request content. So here, one of the GIDs did not pull correctly, and it looks like it's here, right? So I've got a relationship data here, and let me close here. So I must have misconfigured. I did. So here I did not want task assigned to. Probably noticed that while I was doing this. I want actually the task and task assigned to. Okay, so this appears correctly configured. Click OK. One thing with these webhook tests is you're gonna have to go to Asana and try this. Keep modifying information, more content. I should probably actually put in an actual sentence in here. Okay, so I'll fire this off again. And then check here. And got a 200. All right, so now I can go to the database. Boom, got the task, me, and let's see if the relationship came. And it did. Okay, so we got assigned to. All right, so you can see here, the GID, the name came across. For the task, we've got the link, the name, the description, all the items that we had specified in make.com. All right, so let's, while we're here and recording anyways, let me see if I can, where is it? Export this blueprint. Boop. So there is this JSON file, which has a blueprint, or has all the configuration for this this make.com scenario. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to try to put it into another Asana scenario. So what I'm going to do is go here to my scenarios, and I'm just going to create a new scenario. Call this, you know what, let's just call it what I wanted to call the other thing, webhook. Asana task, maybe, and assignee. A very detailed description here. Okay, instead of creating a flow from the ground up, I'm just going to import a blueprint, and I'm going to choose this file that I will make available or have available in that repo. So downloads, blueprint.json, save, and it will load up this webhook. And let me, I'm gonna modify this test task here, the test task, and I don't know, give it some sort of sensible description would be good. Okay. Oop. Now, when I run this once, it should work. 200, okay. All right, so now the name is the test task, description, a sensible description. All right, so, and that's what it takes to build a webhook to push data in make.com into a Neo4j database. I hope that gives you some ideas and helps you get started. Good luck in your import and graph adventures. See you next time.